Overtired. So tired. Overtired.
Hello, everybody. This is the Overtired podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Severance Gunsel, and I'm here with your other two hosts. They are yours. We are all yours. Christina Warren. Hi, Christina.
Hello.
And Brett Terpstra. Hello, Brett.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you come in.
Oh, yeah, no. Are you here for the podcast or?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I want to say there's something I can see that nobody can ever see, which is that Brett and Christina have matching headphones, which have little blue foamy parts. Every time I see that, I think I need to get mine because I think we're all using the same headphones.
Yeah,
we are.
Same headphones. We just went to the extra trouble to put the microfiber ear cups on it.
That's right. That's right.
In my case, I'll be honest with you, it was because the original ones on that pair, because I have 3 or 4 pairs of these headphones. We're all using Sony MDR 7506s, which are like the standard headphones for people in production, and because they're cheap and they last forever. But my ear caps tore, and I ordered these. I think that now, Brett, did you get yours after I got mine, or did you get yours first? Okay,
yeah, I got yours. I got mine because you got yours.
That's right.
You recommended them to me.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because they're really good. So, yeah, Brainwaves, I think, is who makes them.
I forget.
Something. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna order mine. I just
cool.
I'm tired of standing out.
They only come in this blue, so you will match us if you get some.
That's great. Maybe we can have a listener giveaway. You just get, even if you don't have the headphones, you just get the blue foam. Lay your head on it at night. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
What do you want to do first, Jeff?
Well, I want to say we have, there's one of us, only one of the 3 of us is just back from Vegas. And I'd like to hear all about it. How was it, Christina?
Oh my God. It was amazing. I had such a great time with my mom. This was her first trip to Vegas, which I think I mentioned before. And so I've been many times, but I haven't been like on a non-work trip in probably since college. And so I was really excited. This was, big 75th birthday thing is, originally when I bought the tickets for her, it was before her 75th birthday. And so originally we were supposed to go like 6 months before her birthday, and now we wound up going 5 months after. But it was an amazing trip. We had just a great experience. Adele was phenomenal. Like a lot of it was up on my Instagram stories, and I might archive them into some sort of archive if people want to see. But the show was unreal. Our seats, as I knew they would be, for what I paid, not what I would have wanted. If I paid, I paid $3,800 for these tickets, which is insane.
Yeah. Hey, they go way higher.
Which I now regret not doing, to be honest with you. When I got out of the show, I said my only regret was, and I know that there's no way I can say this without making me sound like an asshole, but I wish I had just paid $10,000 for floor seats, or for closer seats. I could have paid, and here's also what killed me. Because she rescheduled and because of all that mess, the price that I paid could have gotten me tickets on the floor. For maybe a little bit more, but I probably could have had tickets on the floor for that price once the rescheduling happened, because a lot of people, were like, got refunds and were like, I'm out. And then, some of the pricing came down on the resale tickets, although not as much as you would think, but certainly they came down. Yeah. If I paid like anything, even double like face value, I would have been ecstatic. It was just the amount that I paid. But even from like the nosebleeds, it was a great show. She's incredible. The interesting things that she did on the staging was really phenomenal. She had these things behind her that were visible only some of the times. There was like these screens that kept going back and forth, and the way that they had her, blown up on the side, like LED screens, and the way that it would focus in on her face, and they would have things like in black and white. Certain points was really cool, but also the way that the stage screens that made like a red A and how that would go back and reveal things was great. But behind her, in addition to having like a piano on stage and like her backup singers, she had people playing like cellos and stuff, but they were it looked like it was on like a 2-story risers where they were in these like little cubes, and they were sometimes obscured and sometimes visible. So it was like you had this massive thing behind her where you see these people full size, like playing, like the orchestra playing, that was sometimes visible depending on, what the setup was, which was really, really cool. And then sometimes they had other things playing on that screen. So absolutely incredible show. I really hope she releases a DVD or a streaming thing, I guess is what they would do now. They wouldn't do a DVD, but I hope she releases like a streaming version of this show. She was lovely. The rest of the trip was fantastic. We stayed at the Venetian, or the Palazzo, which in my opinion is best overall value for a place in Vegas. You can find hotels that are going to be nicer and fancier if you pay more money and get like suites. But in terms of a standard room, I really do think that place is the best overall value. And it was a great location for us because it was close to the Mirage, where we saw the Beatles Cirque du Soleil show Love, which is incredible, and
Nice.
right next door to the Wynn and the Encore. I took her to dinner at the Bellagio on Sunday night so that she could see the fountains, and we had dinner at Lago there. We also, Adele was at Caesars. So I was able to basically take her to see every casino on the Strip that I would have wanted to show her, except for the Cosmopolitan. But we had incredible service. It was a trip of a lifetime. Like she said, it's going to make me cry, but she was like, it was my best birthday ever. And so I like
mission accomplished.
I'm so glad that at this time in my life, I had like the ability and the means to really do this right for my mom, because she's never been, and I wanted everything to be perfect, and I was a little bit concerned. I was like, man, given how the service industry has been, I don't know what the service is going to be like, and if people are going to be nice or if people are going to be, whatever. And like, I would be understanding if people weren't, because Vegas can be hit or miss anyway. Like usually people are pretty nice, but there's a lot going on, and I get it. We had such incredible service everywhere we went. When we got to the hotel, we got in at like 11:15, 11:30, and we tried to get early check-in and try to pay for it. And they were like, oh, you're declined. And we're like, all right, well, we'll just, leave our bags, the luggage thing, and bum around for, 4 hours. No, we were able to check in early. And then the girl was nice enough to like have us check out late for free. So we didn't have to pay. So we had like the first day, it almost felt like a free day, because we had like, an extra 4.5 hours of not having, to be like feeling weird about like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We don't feel refreshed. If you want to shower, if you want to do other stuff. So yeah, it couldn't have been better. Just a really, really great trip. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just so grateful that I had the ability to share this with my mom and to take my mom to this, because she deserves it. She's the best. And it was just, something that neither of us will ever forget.
That's
really
awesome.
happy. I'm really happy you got to do that. I cannot get over how much tickets cost. Like for me, $80 is too much to pay to go see a live show. To pay $3,000+ for a one night show. Like I just put all new windows in my house and it cost
You're not wrong.
$10,000. And that's insane to me. Like to do that for one evening's entertainment is nuts.
No,
I'm not judging you. I'm just saying
I know
it's crazy that's what it costs now.
No, and also to be fair, if I had not been insistent on getting the tickets when I got them, if I had waited until it was closer to the show, which would have been smarter in retrospect, because she wound up, rescheduling.
No way to know.
Right. There is no way to know. And this was also the thing. I think the reason that I did it, I kind of got caught up in the hype, to be a little bit honest. I was like, I need to get these tickets. I need to do this for a birthday. I had a certain budget and I just did it because I was like, I don't know if these are going to get better or not. And because this is, she's probably, Adele said that she really only wants to do these types of residencies in the future. What I think that she'll probably do is that she will do really big international shows. Like she'll do Wembley in the UK, and maybe she'll do some like shows in South America or Australia, but she will primarily do kind of what Celine did. But unlike Celine, who had a residency for on and off, I think for like 14 years, because one of her residencies, I think it was like 4 years. And I think one of them was like 7 or 8. like this was, she added 2 more shows, but this was like a 40 show or 38 show engagement. And so, and last time Adele toured was 2016, and we saw her then. So I was just like, this is like Springsteen on Broadway, where incidentally my tickets were less than this. So you're not wrong, Brett. The prices are insane.
Oh, you saw that show?
I did.
Awesome.
And that was unreal. But I also got lucky with that. Like, I'm sure plenty of people paid more than I paid for Adele for Springsteen and Broadway. But I got lucky and knew someone who had tickets. But yeah, you're not wrong about any of it, the pricing being insane. But I was looking at it as like, okay, I have a budget. This is I want to do this for my mom. Like, money be damned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was about the whole thing, not just Adele per se. Like, honestly, she loved Adele and had no complaints. But like, she even said that if all we had done was see the Beatles Cirque show, that would have been worth the trip.
You're like, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say
exactly.
That.
I was like, right, totally. But here's the thing. I don't know if I could have gotten her to Vegas for just that, right?
Yeah.
So
that doesn't sound like nearly as awesome of a trip.
No. Well, what was funny is my dad, I'd originally, when I looked at booking the tickets the first time, because we were supposed to go in March of 2022, and then it was rescheduled for January. So not as great weather, but whatever. Originally, like, my parents' 50th wedding anniversary was last April. And so I was like, look, I know Dad doesn't like Adele for whatever reason, but which given his taste in music, I still don't understand. But
it's just a hard one not to like.
It really is. It's just, and he likes Celine a lot. Like, it does. I don't get it, but it is what it is. But I was like, well, Dad, you can come to Vegas too. You don't have to go to Adele, but like, I would love to take you both to Vegas for your 50th anniversary. And he was like, no, I don't want to go to Vegas. You girls go. It's a girls trip. And then he started doing what he does now, because he's an old man, and which is, he looks up everything on YouTube. He also watches like the Celebrity Gossip Explainer YouTube stuff, like nonstop, like the Nicki Swift stuff, like why this celebrity has fallen off. Like, it's really funny.
You gotta learn somehow,
stuff that he
man.
watches. He's like really into it. It's really
That's called
funny.
the School of Hard Knocks, ain't it?
It totally. No, but he started looking up the resort, and he started seeing the videos of all this stuff, and he was like, I want to go. I was like, I told you could have gone with us. He's like, I didn't know Vegas was like this. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, my parents had apparently missed out on the entire like 2000s like rebrand of Vegas as like a family friendly luxury vacation thing. Like, they just totally missed out on that. And we're still under the impression that it was like 1970s or 19.
There are whole blocks where you can't
Vegas.
get heroin.
Yeah, you got to go to downtown. You got to go to downtown Vegas for the heroin, right? Which we did not do. Like, we did not leave the Strip, right? So we were like not in real Vegas. I'm aware, but yeah, like, they totally missed out.
It's bizarre going off the Strip, or even going to the old Strip. Like, it's such a trip how different the world is over like a 4-block radius there. Like, once you leave the Strip.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I went to multiple NA meetings last time I was in Vegas, which were not on the Strip. They were, in like suburban Las Vegas, and it's a different world. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I want to say something very quaint. What now seems very quaint, and actually seemed that at the time, but about ticket prices, which is not at all about what anybody's paying now, because that's just what people are paying. I mean, that's the world we live in, right? Like, I was thinking the other day about this band Fugazi, who always insisted that their tickets,
$5.
Their tickets be $5. But there was one exception, and I was there. They had to play First Avenue, and it was on probably one of their, like, it was 98, 99 probably. They were doing 2 nights. I think 2 shows over 2 nights. No, it was their second to last album, actually, I think. But anyway, they for reasons I don't remember, they had to charge more than $5. I think they had to charge, like, I have the ticket stub somewhere. They had to charge like $5.75. And the way that they agreed to do that was if they could print the breakdown of every cent over $5 on the fucking ticket. And so I have that ticket. It just says, like $5.75 or whatever, and then it's like every little tax or whatever that's on there. And I was like,
Fugazi, the hardcore band that didn't allow people to mosh at their shows.
That's right. I mean, they were hyper controlled, right?
Yes,
like,
absolutely straight edge to the max.
And that was whoa, there goes my microphone. But I thought that was kind of adorable, and in the face of where ticket prices went in our world,
Right.
it's like beyond quaint, right? Because even then, I was like, I'm not paying $35 to go to the Target Center and see Neil Young.
I paid like $20 to see Iggy Pop, and that was just seemed insane to me. Oh my god.
Anyway,
which is amazing. See, by the time I started going to concerts, unless you were going to a really small show, like those days were not there, or you knew the band or something, right? Which is why most of the concerts I went to, like in high school, were festivals. Because okay, you pay your $50 or $60 or whatever it is, your $100 if you're doing a 3-day pass, and you see you've got like 100 bands there, right? Like, so that was how I saw most bands if they weren't really small, because everybody else, because it's the fees. Well, even for me, the tickets I think were like $1,100 a piece, and then what happened was StubHub fees were like 50%.
Oh, for Adele, yeah.
So again, if I had been able to like find somebody to do it 1-to-1 with, and there are some various like ticket platforms that are apparently more safe and whatnot, I could have done that. For this show, I was absolutely not risking anything.
Yeah, you were gonna get it.
Definitely keeps the rabble out of the show. If you're in a show and you know that everyone there paid at least $1,000 to be there,
right?
I don't know. I bet
you're among a certain class of people at that point.
I bet you still got to deal with some boomer shenanigans.
Yeah, not Zoomer shenanigans, actually.
Shenanigans.
Because honestly, because at that point, then you have like really entitled, like either influencers or like rich, like kids who don't understand. Yeah, unfortunately, no amount of money will ever have people act right. If that were the case, then everybody in business class wouldn't act like fools. And there are plenty of examples of that,
Well, I do. I will say I love a good residency. I love how you can feel the way the artist has obviously not just spent the last 2 days traveling and schlepping and whatever.
Totally.
And that they're just walking comfortably into the building and up on the stage. That I'm sure it's wonderful for them, but I always feel like it's wonderful as an audience member too. So relaxed.
Totally. No, and it's so funny because honestly, Celine really did like completely change it for modern artists. Like nobody who was a current act did it, to my knowledge.
So it was her that really got that going.
Yeah. So they built the Coliseum for her, which is where Adele was at Caesars. They built that for her. And that opened in like 2002 or 2003. And that was like, if you think about it, that was peak Celine. Like, well, okay, peak Celine was probably 98 with My Heart Will Go On, but like she'd had so many big hits. Like she was definitely a big star, right? So she could have done international tours in massive stadiums. But she had the geriatric husband and the kids, I think. And so she was like, oh, I'm going to do Vegas. And at that point, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but I think my history on this is right, is it was mostly legacy acts. And then she was the first like modern kind of like hot act who did it. And like U2 is doing a residency this year. They're going to be at the Venetian, I think.
And it could be considered legacy, couldn't they?
They are, but my point being, like, of course they are. But I'm just saying, but I say this: U2's last tour, which was a decade ago, and I know it's a decade, but still, U2's last tour is still to this day the best-selling, like the highest-grossing tour of all time. Huh. Like, so, and that was 100 plus shows where they were playing in the 360 stadiums, 100,000 plus people. So, even those big rock acts, like, are doing residencies, but you see everybody doing it. Britney obviously had a residency, and Katy Perry has one there right now. But it's usually not like top of their game artists though, so that is still, I think, a little bit unique to Adele and a little bit like Celine, because like Katy Perry is not selling records like she used to, whereas Adele is still selling, she's still selling millions and millions of albums. So, but you're right, it's great for the artist and for the fans, like you said, Jeff.
So like
Yeah.
20 minutes to talk about Vegas. That was a good intro. Solid. It was
Sorry
not
about
bad.
that. And that's also my
That's
mental
not
health
bad.
update. So
no
everybody else
apologies. Yeah, that's awesome. Christina, do you want to do the ZocDoc read this week?
Yes, absolutely. This episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. All right. So you're trying to find a cause for your symptoms, and, maybe you've got like a cough because you were just in Las Vegas and you're around a bunch of people and you're like, oh my God, do I have an ear infection? Do I have like sore throat? Do I have COVID?
Is this Vegas
what's going on?
COVID?
Exactly. Like, what do I have? Anyway, you stumble down a TikTok rabbit hole full of questionable advice from so-called experts. Do not take like the dewormer. That's all I'm going to say. But there are better ways to get the answers that you want and the care that you deserve from trusted professionals and, not randos on the internet. Don't trust the randos on the internet. Reddit is not medical advice. Neither is WebMD. Frankly, ZocDoc helps you find expert doctors and medical professionals that specialize in the care that you need and deliver the type of experience that you want. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. So when you're not feeling your best and you're just trying to hold it together, finding great care shouldn't take up all your energy. And honestly, like that's true. That can take up a lot of your energy when you just feel sick. And this is where ZocDoc comes in. Using their free app that millions of users rely on, you can find the right doctor that meets your needs and fits your schedule. You can book an appointment with just a couple of taps in the app and start feeling better faster with ZocDoc. So go to ZocDoc.com/overtired and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then you can find and book top-rated doctors today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/overtired, ZocDoc.com/overtired.
I've probably told you this before, but there was one time I was in Vegas and apparently there's some kind of desert pollen that causes like flu-like symptoms. And
Yeah.
I had like an allergic reaction, completely lost my voice and stuffy nose. It was like, I thought I had left Minnesota behind, but all of a sudden I had this just horrible like head cold and laryngitis, and it was awful.
Yuck.
I spent my entire 4 days in Vegas, just unable to talk, unable to breathe. It was awful.
Wow.
And WebMD told me I had cancer, so I could have used ZocDoc. That's a WebMD joke.
Desert cancer.
Desert cancer,
so
Vegas cancer.
Our podcast swap this week comes from the Calm the Bleep Down podcast. Our days are busy, and with so much going on, it can be hard to stay stress-free and balanced. That's why there is Calm the Bleep Down. Calm the Bleep Down is a podcast to help you get back to feeling refreshed and relaxed so you can navigate the chaos of regular life with some balance and perspective. Each week, host Michael Beckemeyer releases 2 free guided meditations. They're low-key, relaxed, and simple. With each meditation lasting 15 to 20 minutes, it's not a huge commitment, and the benefits can make it well worth your time. You don't even need to know how to do it. Anyone can meditate. All you have to do is close your eyes and breathe for a few moments. Maybe, like so many others, you have a really busy mind and you're convinced you can't meditate. Or maybe it's been a while and you want to get back into the habit. Search for Calm the Bleep Down in the Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts and come meditate with us. Or them, depending on whose voice this read is written in. Christina says she's already done her mental health check-in.
Yep.
I'll give you my quick update. So I missed a week of the podcast because I was sick, and then immediately went into like a hypomanic phase where I was still sleeping like 6 to 8 hours a night, but definitely like had my obsession, my coding. Like I just wanted to be in my office coding all the time, which I enjoy. It's great. I get a lot done. It lasted. Yesterday I decided I was going to stop taking my ADHD meds because I needed to kind of get off this very long hypomanic phase. So today I am without medication and a little bit scattered, feeling a little calmer, but not much. Like I honestly, I'm in the middle of what could be a very long hypomanic phase. I don't hate it. My girlfriend tells me I've been distant. I don't know exactly what that means, but she's like, not emotionally distant. Like I feel like you're here, but then I don't know. I guess I'm not the greatest partner when I'm manic. I know that, but I thought I was holding it together pretty well this time. But yeah, so I'm trying to kind of end it, get back to stable, hopefully without a lot of depression. But it's been over a week that I've been just slightly elevated, which at first I was like, holy shit, did I find the new stable? Did I find like the perfect stable where I'm like productive and like and focused and happy? And but it got old after a little bit. So still haven't found that sweet spot.
It sounds like a sweet spot. I've been thinking, or sorry, I've been observing myself. Like, I don't know if it's that I'm moving too fast or that my brain is impacted by certain medications or what, but I've been kind of just making little mistakes that are making me crazy and that aren't, I mean, some of these are in publishing the podcasts and probably be like, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, fuck, I can't, I don't do it again. Don't give up on me. So it's just like a lot of little things like that are, it just, when they add up like that, they can be kind of stressful. And I realized I was kind of looking for a reason. And I realized that, like, in a couple months, the project I've been doing for 5 years ends, and it's my only source of income. And I'm looking at what the hell to do next. And I think for me, when I'm in that position, I go through a whole swirl of, like, I have moments where I feel confident and I feel like, yeah, no, I can definitely build off of what I've done in the past. And I'm really proud of that, whatever, into like imposter syndrome, where it's like, oh, but it's all a fucking house of cards and like whatever. And, so I've been kind of cycling with that and realizing, like, oh, I wonder if that's actually impacting my, like, overall sort of cognitive abilities, because it takes up like way more space than I think it will or think it does. So I'm just trying to continually slow myself down a little bit. Part of the way I'm doing that is, like, if I'm in the middle of trying to do something and I'm moving kind of fast, I'll just stop and try to, like, write out what it is I'm doing and I'm going to do next, when that's useful. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't useful. But just trying to kind of, like, stop myself and slow down a little bit and give myself just a little spaciousness, because I don't think I need a ton of spaciousness. I think I need just a little, and I need many little bits of spaciousness through the day. So, and I need to not be in a situation where I have no choice but to rush, which is a situation I put myself in all the time. So I'm trying to kind of deal with that rather than being like, what's wrong with my brain? I'm like, well, here's what's obviously wrong with your brain, and it can be solved with behavioral changes. So anyhow, that's my deal.
All right.
But it's a lot. Like I have a wife and 2 kids, and I'm a breadwinner in this house. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, shit, I got to get this right.
Right. You got to get shit done for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, that's my deal.
Yeah.
What do we,
the tech world is facing massive layoffs right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody working in tech is feeling perfectly secure. I don't care how untouched your team seems right now. There's what was it? Google employees were fired by email, and they found out, a lot of them found out they had been laid off when their key cards didn't let them into the building the next day.
That's
so rough.
There's no guarantee that tech jobs are safe, which is probably true across the economy. I'm just mostly involved.
Well, there's a lot of those tech moves.
But I spend a lot of time thinking, holy shit, what do I do if I get laid off in the middle of a tech recession and nobody's hiring? Like, what happens to me? What happens to my family?
Yeah.
Like me and my partner and my animals, I guess. But
that's a family.
Well,
I think so.
If it makes you feel any better, Brett, like I think that I think you're in a better position than a lot of other people because you have a lot of skills, so you can be slotted into a lot of things. I have a very I have a much smaller set of skills, shall we say. I worry somewhat, but I have to just be confident that if something happens, I'll find something. But I think you have a very broad skill set where you could be slotted into a lot of things. The only thing I'll say, and I also am worried about the tech recession and whatnot, is that even though all these layoffs are happening, if you look like even in the United States at the number of like engineers that we need, we still don't have enough. So even if like the scary thing with the big companies doing the layoffs is that you might find another job, but it might not pay as well. And depending on your budget, and if you're like really reliant on like that, like mid 6-figure salary, like, for your mortgage and all these other things, like that could really fuck you. I'm not like discounting that. But if this is more like a early 2000s kind of tech bubble thing, and we don't know yet, like there are still like startups I know for a fact are still hiring. And so you're sort of in this weird place where, yeah, okay, you might lose your job at Google, and I'm not in any way discounting how horrible and like awful and stressful that would be, but there are other places hiring. It's not like, some industries that I've worked in where like then no one is hiring, and you wouldn't even be able to find anything comparable to live off of. So I hope that can give you a little bit of it's not going to give you reassurance, but just to say, like, I'm just looking at it, there are still jobs, they're just maybe different, right? Like I think the interesting thing is, and Brett and I were talking about this before the podcast started, there's this entire generation of people who have never been through layoffs or a recession before. And that's weird for me because I used to work in journalism, which obviously had lots of that, right? Even after like the boom years of digital, which was the only part of journalism I worked in, there were all kinds of layoffs. But, I also graduated from college in 2008. So like my entire like worldview was shaped by that. And but there's a whole generation of people who've literally never seen it. And so I totally understand the anxiety, because I have questions too. I'm also the breadwinner in my house. So I'm definitely there with you where, I have decent savings and I'd be okay. But, like, yeah, you're definitely have like those questions.
It's amazing how fast savings can disappear when you have no other source of income. Like I have decent savings right now too. Probably not as decent as yours because I've only been back in the job world for a little over a year now. But like I could survive 6 months. Like if I lost my job and had no like unemployment or anything, I could survive 6 months comfortably at my current lifestyle. But then,
right.
If it took me longer than that to find a job, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I could do a year right now at my current stuff and probably extend that if I cut things down. But I definitely don't want to do that, right? And that would be, and to be clear, that's before going into the 401k.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Same.
Which I wouldn't want to touch. So I have a year, but yeah, I obviously don't.
My 401k, I lost half of my 401k from the first half of my career when I got divorced. I just, without really even being asked, I just was like, you deserve half of this. And I just signed over half my 401k. And then didn't have a job for the next like 7 years.
Obviously no lawyers involved.
Well, which is better many times.
Yeah, I know. It's way better.
My divorce was super easy. It went fine. I think I did right by her. At the time we got divorced, she was making more than I was anyways. So that wasn't too hard, but I didn't start re-adding to my 401k until last year. So basically I have the 401k of like a 21-year-old right now. It's not significant.
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah, and mine is mostly I have my 401k is definitely not what it should be because I saved a whole lot less than you were suggested to, because I lived in New York City and I was like, what do you mean I'm supposed to save this amount of fuck you. But a lot of my stuff has been it's been caught up in stock that I didn't sell dumbly. And the stock has gone down significantly in the last year. So that's been fun to just see a third of that disappear. But
Yeah.
But also, at least I work in an industry that gives me stock, so there's that.
I have restricted stock units that if I stick around long enough, they'll vest and I'll be able to take them out. But I have another 6 months before the first quarter of my last bonus actually vests and I can touch it.
Okay.
So hopefully I can stick around that long. We'll see.
Yeah, mine vests quarterly, but I don't do the thing that
after
do, which
after a year. I learned this about GitHub. It vests quarterly after a year, but your first year you can't.
Well, no. Well, that's for your signing amount. Because I was joining from Microsoft, all of my stock already transferred over, and then my bonus that I got at GitHub is quarterly. So I was already on like a Microsoft vest. So, but yeah, most of them, the first amount that they give you will vest. Yeah. At least the signing amount will vest after a year, but your first bonus, even if you get that in under a year, usually vests quarterly.
Nice. I know we have a few topics to cover. The week I was gone, you guys mentioned King of the Hill, and it's come up a few times.
It's a great show.
Last time Christina mentioned it was about the Y2K episode.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, Christina seems very gung-ho on King of the Hill. Like she brings it up all the time. And I trust Christina. I trust Christina's like media chops. And I had watched it when it was on and I enjoyed it. It was a good show. I had warm feelings about it, but I had just watched all of Futurama and been disappointed. And Christina said, King of the Hill is better. And so I went back and I started from the beginning. I'm on season 9 now. I've been watching it. We have learned that Elle is at her best if she has some time to with autism and recovery times needed from social interactions. If she has an hour to 2 hours of just her time, like close the door, read, write, do all of those things. So I'm left in the living room and I watch King of the Hill every night now. And it is really good.
Yeah.
Like the way that they have it set up. So you have like an uptight Christian, patriotic Texas family dealing with the problems that arise from having a different kid. Like he's a good kid, but he maybe is a little more effeminate than the dad would like. Maybe he's a little pudgier than his parents expected him to be. Like all of these little things that they have to deal with, and they have to deal with all of the things that Bobby brings into their lives. And it deals with it in a way that even my ultra right-wing religious parents could watch and understand the progression that Hank goes through every week as he learns to deal with these new things. And they do it in a way that is not offensive. Like it's not in your face. They tackle these issues in a way that's like, yeah, it's okay to be offended by this at first, but here's why you will eventually come around and still love your son despite your misgivings at first. And I think it's a brilliant show. It's really good.
Yeah. I totally thank you for saying that. This is Grant's favorite show, and he always calls himself like that he was Bobby Hill as a kid, and that's how he really related to it. And yeah, the show, and even when you get into the later seasons, it does fall off the rails a little bit more, although there's still some gems. But like it's I think it's a really great just kind of representation of a lot of the characters, like Hank, who's this conservative kind of guy. Like he could have been an archetype that would have been really one-dimensional, and he's not a one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
He really feels like a real person.
He's not Archie Bunker.
Yeah.
No, and he really does evolve, and he really does grow, right? And there's this great episode that happened, I guess, in 2000 when George W. Bush was running for president, where he met him at like a fair or something, and then he had a weak handshake, and then he has this crisis of conscience about who he's going to vote for. It's very, very funny. There was this great thing that I saw over Christmas. I'm going to link it in our show notes. It's called Priests React to King of the Hill. And it's these two priests, and they do these React videos. They're these two like Catholic priests, these two friars, I guess, who react to various pop culture media. And they talk about the one where the episode that they react to is the one where Hank leaves his church because they give up his seats to someone else. And then they go to the mega church and kind of the whole thing there. And it's a really interesting thing to watch, to get that perspective from, even if you're someone like me who doesn't appreciate it's not that I don't appreciate, but who doesn't really jive with organized religion. It was actually, I even had Grant watch it, and he really liked the reaction, and he's even more anti-religion than I am. Who really, really liked their response to it. And it was really interesting because one of the priests is younger, and it's clearly showing the older one this media, but they walk away with it like very impressed and thinking, no, they got the message right. Greg Daniels, who was one of the co-creators, went on to create The Office. And I think that you can see a lot of like the humanity and things that you later saw in The Office. You can see it in King of the Hill. So I'm glad you've been enjoying it, because I really do think it's one of those like special shows.
I think of you a lot when I watch it. I'm like, oh, Christina would have loved this.
That's awesome. Can I ask you guys to explain something to me like I was 5?
Yes.
Okay. Why is it that there are so many things that only work in Chrome, even though Chromium is everywhere?
In my experience, if something says it will work in Chrome, it'll work in a Chromium browser. They're not going to, most places aren't going to be like, this also works in Brave. They're just going to say Chrome because it has so much market share. But for the most part, like Riverside, which we're using to record this, for example, it works fine in Brave or Edge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you're talking about Chromium, the open source Google thing, is that what you're talking about? Jeff? Okay. That lacks a couple of libraries that some websites call on. So it's DRM is one of the big ones. So Wildvine, which is like the DRM that YouTube, or I don't think YouTube uses it, but Netflix and Hulu and a bunch of other services rely on, is bundled into Chrome official, and it's actually bundled into Firefox, which was very controversial, but that was the correct move. I'm sorry for the open source purists, or free software purists, free software purists. Don't want to mislabel anyone. But that was the right decision. But there are a couple of specific things that Google does in Chrome, which then is by the most part adopted in Brave and in Opera and in Edge and other things that for whatever reason are not in the pure open source builds of Chromium. But it's usually DRM related. And I don't know why. I would say, and Brett, tell me your thoughts on this, but I mean, at this point, a lot of it is like Internet Explorer all over again, where a lot of developers just don't even bother to test in desktop Safari. They will test in mobile Safari because they have to, but they don't even bother to test in Firefox, right? Like, and there's certainly, WebKit they're not going to use. And so it's one of those things that if there are flags that might be off on Chromium, and I don't know what they might be, for some reason the site is using one of those things, maybe that's why it breaks.
Tell me, describe and tell me this like I'm 5. What is Chromium?
Okay, so Chromium is the pure open source implementation of the Chrome browser. So it is taking all the Google bits out of it. So Google would have their server for some of the extensions and for maybe some of the stuff that they would do for YouTube, or DRM, as I said. And this is what they're basically kind of giving out to the community and frankly, Linux users to be like, look, you wanted something that is unencumbered and that is de-Googled. Here you go. It's not going to have all the niceties that we have, and it's not going to have like all the bells and whistles and polish, but this will work. And you can be assured that it is purely quote unquote open source or free software.
Yeah. Okay. So what is built on Chromium or out of Chromium?
Well, it depends. Again, like Microsoft Edge is technically based on Chromium, but they use a lot of things from the Chrome project too. And then Microsoft is obviously going to add in the DRM component and the other things, and they're going to adhere really strictly to the Chrome release schedule to try to make sure that if it works in Chrome, it'll work in Edge. But if you, for instance, wanted to build a brand new web browser that had the Chrome engine, so you would have the JavaScript engine, and you would also have like the rendering engine Blink, and you would have the ability to use the extension format. You could just use the Chromium base and then add or remove whatever kind of googly bits you wanted. But like the idea would be, for instance, like the reason Brave kind of started and Edge to a certain degree too. Like they don't have all of like the really high Google optimized things, right? Which are really dedicated for around Google search and the other Google services. Like that's not part of Chromium. So the idea of Chromium is basically like you can take our JavaScript engine and our renderer, but there are other things that the Google builds that they are like, hey, this is ours, and if you want to use them, and like the dev tools, for instance, are I believe for the most part open source, but some people build on them. Like I actually think that the Edge dev tools are better now, which I know is anathema, but I actually think they are. But if you wanted to make changes to remove certain things, which usually people do for privacy reasons, where they're like, we don't want all of our searches and all of our pages and everything that we're doing necessarily be tracked by Google or whoever, we'll do our own thing. Or if you're a company who's like, I don't like Manifest v3, which is going to be the thing that Google is supposed to finally force everyone on in the next couple of months, which will make ad blocking, as we've done traditionally, much more difficult. In theory, somebody could fork or one of the forks like Brave or Chrome, or not Chrome, Edge isn't going to do it, but Brave could. They could be like, hey, actually, we want to still support the old extension Manifest, and continue to upkeep the fork, if that makes any sense.
Okay. So really, when I was kind of thinking about it wrong, it's really that where Chromium exists, there's a whole lot more built on top that is proprietary to the new Edge or Chrome or
the new Arc browser that Brian and Quinn, you guys weren't here for that episode, but
it's great.
They were talking about Arc, and it adds a lot of rather ingenious developments, but it's Chromium based, and I don't think that browser could exist if they didn't have Chromium to build off of.
No, yeah, because they'd have to do the entire thing from scratch. Same thing even with Brave, right? Or even frankly, like Microsoft Edge. Microsoft had the old Edge was its own rendering engine and JavaScript thing, Trident, and like it evolved from Internet Explorer, and then they had it. Adoption wasn't there. Development was slow. Couldn't get extension developers. And so that team made what I think was the right choice, but it was definitely a hard one. And it was definitely a contentious one where they said, okay, we are going to scrap all the original work that we've spent years and years on and had a ton of engineers doing. And instead we are going to rebase off of Chromium. But we're going to work upstream as much as we can with Google, but we are going to make our own optimizations so that things like have better battery life, and maybe it'll be more integrated with certain Windows things. And, we will default to Bing and instead of Google, although that is always the very first thing that I change, right? They have their own extension store, for Edge, but you can also go to the Chrome store and install any extension, which is the same thing you can do on Arc or on Brave or whatever.
So then, go ahead, Brett.
I just gotta say, like, Bing is the last search engine to offer an API. They charge for it. Like you have to subscribe and pay to use the Bing search API. But as someone who puts a search backend into multiple projects, I greatly appreciate everyone else has pulled what little APIs they had to begin with. Even DuckDuckGo has pulled their API.
Which is funny because they're based on Bing.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, they didn't want to
DuckDuckGo
pay.
is based on Bing?
A lot of it, yeah.
They source from multiple engines, but Bing is a big...
Yeah,
the big source.
Yeah, it's not. It used to be their primary one, but now they have like their own crawlers too. Yeah, they source from multiple places, but at least historically, Bing has always been their largest.
Yeah.
Why is it good that these people are pulling their APIs?
It's not.
It's not good.
Oh, I thought you said it was okay. You stated it in a way that had me thinking you were like,
no. I mean, basically, it all comes down to ad money.
Yeah,
and being able to control what people see. And if you just expose this huge trawling database you have of search results, you can't make money off of that. So Bing charges for access to the search API, and I've never paid for it, so I don't know if you get the exact same results as you would in the browser or not. But I do know that Google has made it nearly impossible to even scrape results, and DuckDuckGo does not make it simple. DuckDuckGo, it's easy to work around and get like the one top result from DuckDuckGo. But anything else to actually get like search results from anything, it's no longer even feasible.
Yeah. And Bing is apparently they're going to be building ChatGPT into it.
Right.
So, which is cool.
$10 billion investment. Sure.
Absolutely. And that was even before that.
Google supposedly has something that like their AI supposedly is already at the same level as ChatGPT. So this purchase, this investment brings Microsoft closer to what Google already has in-house.
Totally. Well, yeah, but you're not wrong. I mean, I don't don't work at Google, obviously, so I don't know what their capabilities are. And Microsoft had a lot of capabilities even before the OpenAI partnership. However, like, and this is, I think, what the ultimate question will be with how these things work out is it's like, who can execute the best, right? Because there are countless examples of people with better technology or as good technology, but can't execute as well. And Google has had arguably, I would say, like a decade head start on everybody else in AI, but they haven't done anything that is like worked. I mean, other than the Google Photos stuff, which is amazing, but people don't think about as AI in the same way. They haven't done anything that is so far that is, captured kind of like the mainstream public, where as ChatGPT.
You mix ChatGPT level AI into like a Home Assistant or into fucking Clippy for that matter.
Yep.
And you have some tools that are seriously useful.
Yep.
That are like it's the future is now. Like this stuff is about to start happening. So.
Oh no, I totally agree. And I'm not like I don't think that like it's a given that OpenAI will be the winner. I have no idea who will win, but yeah. I do think that there's something to be said with like Google has had this capability for a long time. For whatever reason, they didn't execute.
Despite these huge investments, OpenAI is basically operating as a nonprofit, capped for profit.
Yeah,
meaning they limit.
It's 100 times the investment amount. So
they're not in it to get rich. They're in it to keep the servers running.
Right.
Which we live in a capitalist society, and whoever makes the most money is going to have the most dominant technology. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Totally. A lot of the investment from Microsoft has historically gone just frankly towards compute stuff because all of it runs on Azure and it's expensive.
Well, it's expensive. Yeah, for sure.
Because almost everything they're doing is GPU bound, and that is really expensive. And so, like Azure's going to have to buy a whole lot. And I know they've been working on this for a while because obviously like I, work on some things that are adjacent to this, but, been trying to get way more GPUs, for the data centers where, it's sort of an interesting place where I think we talked about this before, like data centers are really moving less from being like processor based because you kind of reached a point where you can even do ARM, stuff and save money for your data centers for some of your compute. But when you're talking about AI, it is all GPU bound. And
I don't even want to know what the ecological impact of something like OpenAI is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's better than Bitcoin, though, because I mean, at the very least, you know what I mean? Like, at the very least, it's actually being used for something. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Actually had some productive use in society.
Well, maybe as it comes up and Bitcoin comes down, it all just
yeah. Well, And then I think that the hope is obviously is that these GPUs will over time become more and more power efficient, and things will, as models get better, you will be less maybe bound on those ends. But yeah, we'll see. But you're not wrong. I mean, those are definitely things to think about, like long term, like what is the impact of this stuff? Because it's not nothing, but it is given like the ecological impact of what we used to be using GPUs for, which was literally just to create fake money,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
at least we get something out of it.
All right. So
you're not
Go
wrong
ahead,
would
Jeff.
be You're Not Wrong would be a great name for a podcast, not an episode, but just like welcome to You're Not Wrong.
The opposing view to You're Wrong About, which
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
great podcast, by the way. We should do a
it
swap
is.
with You're Wrong About. We didn't get to No Sir. I'm going to do a little more research on it. I think it will be a topic along with talking about Mastodon.
Awesome.
And maybe we revisit in the future the travesty that is the Elon Musk Twitter. But for this week, we should get to Gratitude. Who wants to kick off? I can if nobody's up for it yet.
I'm fine whenever.
Go for it, Jeff.
Okay, so my pick this week is the Readwise Reader. Readwise is a service I've used for a long time, really just as a pipeline for all of my highlights from Apple Books and Instapaper and everything to pump them into my, back in the day, we called it a second brain. I kind of dump it into Obsidian, or I was playing with Rome before that. And even before that, it was just text files, right? So it just like does a nice job of almost creating like an API of all my highlights. But I always regarded it as just a pass-through kind of situation. Just this week, I saw that they have a beta for something called the Readwise Reader, and it blew my mind. So basically, you can picture Instapaper, where you can read your articles in a nice, readable format. You can highlight, you can look at just your highlights, that kind of thing. So at its base, it's kind of an Instapaper-like service, but it takes in EPUBs, Twitter threads, YouTube videos, RSS feeds, email newsletters, whatever. Like it takes in just about anything and handles everything like with a kind of grace and just that I did not expect from such a service. It even allows you to watch YouTube videos with the transcript going, and you can highlight in the transcript. So anyhow, it captures all kinds of stuff. It presents it beautifully. There's a right sidebar and a left sidebar, and then down the middle is your article. And it has the most amazing keyboard shortcuts. They're so simple.
Nice.
So like if I'm looking at an article, there's going to be like a focus indicator on the left side of a line or a paragraph. And I can just, use the arrows to kind of navigate down. And then when I want to highlight, I just hit H and it highlights that line or that paragraph. And then in your right sidebar, it shows up as a highlight.
Nice.
And you can highlight fucking images and they'll show up in there. And then, if you want to like write a note and highlight it, you just type N, and all of a sudden the highlight is in the sidebar and you've got a prompt to type your note into. It's just like, It is so elegant. And it's even got this really crazy feature where it uses GPT-3. It's called Ghost Reader. So there's a keyboard shortcut to invoke Ghost Reader, at which point you can ask the document a question, summarize the document, generate Q&A pairs using your highlights, and then using I don't know much about the Jinja templating language, but apparently you can use that to make custom queries of the article. And that's not all. It also is a web highlighter. So I can be on any web page in the whole wide world, and I can highlight something and right click and say, either save just this highlight to my Readwise or save this article with this highlight to my Readwise. And so like, this is something I've dreamt of for a really long time, to be able to really just interact like elegantly and powerfully with any kind of content, and then be able to export it into something. And so there's all kinds of stuff they're still going to be adding. But I was actually surprisingly impressed with the generating of Q&A pairs. I didn't think I cared But when I read them, I was super interested. And then like generate thought-provoking questions. I actually found it an interesting way to review. I won't do it, but it was interesting. So anyway, I think it's free right now, or it is free right now. It's in beta. I'm sure it'll cost something at some point, but it is an incredible service.
Yeah.
I hope it costs something at some point.
Okay, so I actually have a couple. So I've been playing with Mastodon a little bit more over the last couple of days, because not only is Twitter killed the third-party clients, as we discussed last episode, but my experience on Twitter has become degraded, as it has for a lot of other people. There's a thread that I will link to from like a former engineer that is kind of opining about like why this might be because of various things. Being shut down with the server, basically the website can't keep up with what's going on, and so it's not great. So I've been playing a little bit more with Mastodon finally, and that's because there's finally some decent clients for Mastodon. So the first one is an iOS client, or there are two iOS clients. The first one is called Ice Cubes, and it is open source, and it's available in the App Store. And it is a really, really good iOS client. It's free, but you can tip the creator, which I absolutely have. This was for some reason banned from the App Store for a number of days. It was the whole brouhaha, but it is now available. It's unfortunately only on iOS. It doesn't work on Mac OS, but it's great. And Ivory is also now available from the Tapbots team, so the team behind Tweetbot now make a client called Ivory, which launched yesterday as we're recording this.
Yay.
And it is it's $2 a month or $15 a year. So it's a little more expensive than it was before, but I love to be able to support good devs. And then some people were recommending this to me. There is a web app called elk.zone. This is also on GitHub. That is, in my opinion, a much, much better web interface for Mastodon. It is much more similar when the way you look at it to what like the old Twitter interface was back when like Twitter had a decent web interface. So this is now becoming my primary way of wanting to interact with Mastodon on the desktop. I'm still looking for like a good Mac clients. There have apparently been some good ones that people have mentioned. I think one is called Mona, but I haven't tried that out yet. And so Mastodon apps are finally kind of coming into their own, which is interesting. It lagged a little bit longer than, actually a lot longer. It says something that it took this many years for Mastodon to exist for really good clients to come out. But I do think it is because of the decisions that Twitter has made, not just with the third-party stuff, but with degrading the overall experience, where you now finally have people who are actually really talented, both with design and with programming, finally coming together to make things. So the Mastodon stuff is my stuff, and I'm at film_girl at Mastodon .social.
Awesome.
I use Toot with an exclamation point on iOS. It's been around for quite a while. I do quite well with it, but I'm definitely going to check out Ivory. That anything from Tapbots gets my vote. So
for sure, one of the nice things about Ice Cubes, I will say, that I hope other clients adopt, is that it has this ability for you to bring in a remote local instance, and what that means is that you can bring in basically a timeline from like other instances that you're not part of, and you can like browse like whatever their public things are. So this is a really good way for discovery. So like for me, one of my problems, there are services like Move to Dawn and other things where it'll find your followers on other platforms and bring them in for you. But one of the things is that sometimes, like, because it's decentralized, you don't see all the content other people are putting on. And so I have some friends who are on Hackyderm, and I have some friends who are on infosec.exchange, and I have some friends that are on other instances. And it's annoying to have to like try to bring up like if you're on the desktop, I guess you could just like browse that, but it's annoying to try to do that. And so one of the nice things I like about Ice Cube is that you can bring in like a remote local instance where you can browse those kind of like main timelines.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
then that way you could interact or follow people from that,
Yeah.
which I think is a really, really good thing. I hope that other clients adopt that feature, because I think that's a really, really good solution to trying to figure out like, where is everybody at? Because I'm like on like the default instance, but there are a lot of people who are on other more specialized ones. And even though people tell you what instance you're on doesn't matter, it kind of does when you're kind of getting your feet wet and trying to kind of discover where all your people are.
So Elon Musk tweeted out a tweet that just had 2 shield icons, and in between it said Veritas in 3 spaced out syllables, to which I wrote back 2 shields with "oh fuck off," and that got me so many responses from Elon fanboys,
Yeah.
and even fangirls.
Oh yeah.
But then, right in the middle of that, like not as a reply to Elon, I just wrote, "The Twitter client on Mac sucks. Fuck you, Elon Musk, for taking Tweetbot away. This piece of shit can't even complete a username from the keyboard. It requires a mouse click, and I loathe having to reach for the mouse just to click your stupid name," which got me banned from Twitter for 10 hours.
Oh my God.
But it was 10 hours I didn't have to read hateful replies from fucking Musk fanboys.
My jaw is like literally dropped though. Like that got you banned for 10 hours.
Yeah. Yes. It said, you may not engage in the targeted harassment of someone, even though it's totally punching up, and even though it was entirely justified anger, or incite other people to do so. This includes wishing or hoping that someone experiences physical harm. All I said was, "Fuck you, Elon Musk."
Yeah,
that was my targeted harassment.
Okay,
Oh
there's
my
a certain
God.
irony in this, because like that used to be the shit that like the people on that Elon used to like get mad about, because look, Twitter did used to do some of this shit. Twitter did used to do a thing where like if you told like Mike Pence to go fuck himself, like they would like maybe like quarantine your account or whatnot. And I'm of the opinion, I know some people will disagree with me, I don't actually think that saying kill yourself to someone is impolite. I don't actually think that's a death threat. I'm sorry, I don't. And I don't think telling someone to go fuck themselves is a threat of violence, right? Like I've had actual rape and death threats come to like my inbox and things, to the point where not because I have any trust in the police, but because of like corporate policies and whatnot, I've had to report them, and the police don't give a shit. They're like, you're a public figure, who cares? But like, it's different. Like when people send you like a very detailed thing, like I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to you, like that's very different than someone being like, kill yourself, which again, not nice. Also, not a death threat at all. At all. So like, he used to rail against that sort of stuff, and now because it's against him, that's a violation of a harassment policy because you told him to go fuck himself. What a little bitch.
Yeah. So anyway, on that bright note, I will say my actual pick for the week is Hookmark, which according to our master list, I somehow haven't mentioned before. But it is a Mac utility that lets you create links between any 2 objects on your system, whether it's an OmniFocus task or a PDF or an NV Ultra note or an email or a specific line in a document. You can copy a link to it that you can then attach to another object or drop into your markdown notes or an email, and provide links to things that you don't normally think of being linkable. And when it comes to like, if I'm working on a project, I link together like a task paper document and like the main source code and my NV Ultra notes and any mind maps I've created. And I can jump from any of those individual objects. I can jump to the other parts of the project, even though they're in completely disparate parts of the system. And it's way faster than Spotlight searching because you are very intentionally creating these links between objects. And it's a game-changing utility that's hard to describe But once you get into it and start using it, and the links are sturdy, like you can change a file name or move the file, and the link to it in Hookmark will still work. Like it uses basic file system bookmarking rather than like a directory location or a file name or things like that. So in general, they are very robust, sturdy links, and it's very nice.
I have a question. So this used to be called Hook, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's on SetApp now.
Yeah.
As Hookmark. It was never there as Hook, I don't think.
No. 4.0, they rebranded as Hookmark because they wanted to clean up the language between a hook, which is what it creates, and the app itself, which they rebranded as Hookmark.
And were there other major changes or anything significant?
4.0 did not have any major under the hood changes. It was mostly a rebranding.
My fear was always I was creating some kind of invisible cruft that wouldn't travel with the file in the first place and would look like a mystery to me 10 years down the line. But you're saying that is not a problem with Hookmark.
Well, I mean, no one can predict what your data system will look like in 10 years.
Yeah, take away the 10-year forecast.
But the hooks, the hooks are robust, and there's a free version of Hookmark that even if you were to stop paying the subscription fee for Hookmark, you would still be able to access all of your links.
I see. Okay, cool. I might play with it. It's been a while. I played with it early on.
Cool. We did
awesome. We did the podcast.
We did it
again.
Yeah.
Hey,
thanks for showing up. This has been fun.
Can I say that on the Tapbots page, there's something very sad. It lists their 4 apps with their icons, and the Tweetbot bird has a halo now, and it just says the button says memorial, and if you click it, it's really sad. It's an elephant. It's an elephant for their Mastodon app looking at Tweetbot's gravestone. It's the saddest thing in the world.
That's so sad.
Maybe you could find a show art in that.
Maybe.
Anyway, I loved that app so much.
Well, is it time to say get some sleep?
Get some sleep.
Get some sleep, boys.
Sleep with the angels, Tweetbot.
The system is going down now.